Hey everybody, David Chatham here with Angel Oak Creative, another episode of our State of Mind, nonprofit State of Mind podcast. We've had some great guests on, and that trend continues today. We've got Florida DeVaul-Dudley and Ed Dudley. They are the co-founders of Shining Light in the Darkness, a nonprofit that serves folks who are coming out of and working through domestic violence and other types of intimate partner and sexual assault, which is a tough topic, but one we're going to tackle a little bit today, but also really talk about what it means to shine light, right? And that's what this organization wants to do, is really shine light in the darkness. So we're going to talk about how they're doing that and learn a little bit about their experiences as nonprofit startups and what they've learned over the course of their time getting this nonprofit up and running, and maybe some lessons that they can share with other folks who are in the same place. So Ed in Florida, welcome to Angel Oak's nonprofit State of Minds.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Well, would love to start by just having you introduce yourself, sharing a little bit about how how the journey has been for you to this point, and just kind of what that looks like for starting this organization, and where things are heading. So, Florida, you want to start?
Yeah, thank you. Um, Shining Light in Darkness, it's birthed from my personal experiences with both domestic violence and sexual assault. And um, the name, it speaks for itself because of how dark those two things are. Shining Light in Darkness is here to be that light in this world. Um, Outside of, not going too deep into my story because it may be triggering to some. So I'll just like give a quick synopsis of my journey to starting Shining Light in Darkness. I was molested at 7 years old. In my early 20s, date rape. And in a previous relationship, I experienced both domestic violence and sexual assault from my former partner. And Ed and I, we were in a bad accident in 2015. And those suppressed memories of 7-year-old Florida was released on top of the other trauma that I endured and sustained from that car accident. And I I struggled with um, the suppressed memories, not the new life sustaining injuries that I just sustained, but I struggle with what I suppressed at 7 years old. Um, Going back to 7 years old, Florida, and that incident that has affected my entire life and changed the trajectory of who I am and what I do. Um, After that incident happened to me, I immediately went to school, which is supposed to be a safe haven. And they tell you if anything happens to you, you can tell them and they're going to take care of you, just like your family, an extended family. So I immediately went to my first grade teacher, Miss Harris. I will never forget her as long as I live. And I told her what had just happened to me. Right after I got off the bus, I ran to her and she was talking to another teacher. And as the two of them standing in the hallway by the principal's office, she looked at me as if I had done something wrong.
Mm.
And of course, children, they read body languages too. And when I looked at her and her expression and what I was telling her, it was like I said something wrong or I did something wrong.
Mm.
And I had to protect me the best way that I could. So everything that happened from that moment on, it was just suppressed. I never talked about it again. I didn't share it with my mom. I shared it with no one outside of Ed. And when that accident happened, all of those horrific things that I endured as a child came back.
Wow.
And how I struggled to overcome that darkness. I excuse me. I still deal with it today. So it's a daily journey in healing from this. And because of how I struggled to deal with reality of my current situation and from that accident, and trying to find balance of those suppressed memories, it was very hard. Any and every unhealthy way that someone would try to cope with trauma, that's what I did. But at the same time, that didn't help me heal. I tried therapy. Therapy almost caused me to have a relapse. And so the conventional ways to deal and address trauma didn't work for me. What helped me was to understand what happened to 7-year-old Florida up until now, and educating myself. And I love to read, I love to learn, because I'm always in that mode of learning more. And with me learning how that one incident changed the entire trajectory of my life, I began to start my healing. And from there, I understood even more the purpose and the clarity of shining light in darkness, because how I struggled trying to deal with this, there are so many more people out there like me that lost their voice, and we're trying to find ways to regain our voice.
Well, thank you for sharing that and for taking the risk of doing that. I know that's a challenge. I have someone close to me who's been through some of that and is finding some light in the darkness as well. So I can understand some of that, but that it's out of that, right, is what has spawned you to pursue this shining light in the darkness and to open up an opportunity for others to help overcome that. It sounds like. So God bless you for that work. And, we'll certainly keep you in our prayers in that way as well. Ed, how did all this come into your life, and how did you all work together to get things started?
So when we came together, I moved her out of Mississippi to Georgia, where I was living at the time. And I said, just being at home mom, take care of the things that you need to do. And so she tried doing the soccer mom and all PTA and all that. It just wasn't for her. And she came to me one day and said, I want to start a business. I was like, okay, because her family has a bunch of entrepreneurs. I said, no problem. I'll support you. Just let me know what you need. She comes back to me and said, no, I want to start a nonprofit. I'm like, you want to do what? She's like, I want to start a nonprofit. I'm like, who does that? Like, people actually start nonprofits? I'm like, why? Are they crazy? So and she comes back to me after that and she said, yeah. She said, the name God gave to me was shining a light in the darkness, to be a light in darkness. I'm like, all right, support you any way that you can. And so we started putting some things together. And this area, this arena that we're in was so foreign to me. And the more I dug in to learn, I learned that it is a global pandemic. Domestic violence, it does not just affect here in the United States. It's across the globe. I don't care what color, race, and ethnicity, financial background you have. It affects everyone. And you couldn't have told me some years back that I would actually be sitting here and advocating for that. Just wasn't in my purview. But, I always say sometimes, you find your purpose, and other times your purpose finds you. And I can truly say that my purpose found me working with the victims and survivors that we work with. It's been an amazing journey. It's ups and downs like anything. There's been some times that I sat back and cried. There's some times that I've smiled, and sometimes, I like to joke and say when I first started, I had hair. Because there's been some times I want to pull my hair out. Say you were part of that club. It's called the Aerodynamic Club.
I am lean and mean when it comes to cutting through the wind, let me tell you.
Yeah. So, and it just brought us here. And, Florida doesn't like when I say this, but I'm a firm believer. If I can just help at least one person, I've done my job. She's like, stop, we're going to help thousands of people. I'm like, absolutely. But if I can get that one, make a difference in the life of one, help them through that, we've done our job.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, unfortunately, we've seen a lot more and talked to a lot more than one, but, we've had some great stories after the fact. And I will tell anyone, depending on where the questions go from here, anyone that's going through it right now, there's light on the other side. Simple as that.
Well, that's great. Now, when did you start shining light in the darkness? How long ago has that been?
2014, when we were living in Georgia.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're 7 years later, and I know, if I understand correctly, and I may be wrong about this, but just kind of looking at your backgrounds and all through LinkedIn and other places, it looks like you both have had some corporate, private industry kind of experience. I guess, first of all, is that true? And then secondly, if so, how has any of that played into, skills or just being able to transfer some of those things into the nonprofit space? Or maybe how has it been a challenge to take that mindset and twist it into the nonprofit world?
Yeah. So real quickly, so we started in 2014, pretty much, I say, under the radar, just doing the work. And it was in 2019 when we filed the paperwork to officially be a nonprofit. But for us, the work started, like I said, in 2014.
Sure.
Now, my personal background, I got a couple of decades in the financial services background. And when I stepped into this nonprofit world, I was like, what the heck am I doing? There's certain things I understood, but a lot.
You were all about the for-profit side.
Yeah, I was all completely about the for-profit side. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, why? Like, this doesn't make sense. Now, I will say this, and I will get it on recording. You probably will never hear me say it again in public. My wife was right about a lot of things. So I'm not going to say that again, but no, so she
247 on yeah.
No, but because she has some experience in the nonprofit world. But I think the best thing that helped me prepare for this was my ability to network and build relationships and partnerships. That helped me in corporate, and it helped me in the nonprofit sector, because I've run, and it's been an amazing thing living here in the Triangle. First of all, you could have never told me we'd be living here now, but it's been absolutely amazing. The people that I've met, like the Maggie Canes of the world, the Danny Rose, and I can go on and on about some of these amazing leaders. David Baum, that gentleman I affectionately call my spark.
Off all my favorite folks.
I affectionately call him my spark. David, if you listen to this, you get a shout out. But it's just been some amazing people here, and they've helped me along the way in this profit world.
What about you, Florida? Any of your past business experiences or work experiences been able to be transferred, some of those things, to what you're having to do now within the nonprofit world?
Definitely, without a doubt. My experience is all service oriented. I've worked in law enforcement as a police officer. I've worked at a federal qualified health center, FQHC, where I got my nonprofit experience over a decade in that as well. And then education. One thing that I learned from my experience was that I always, and I still do, have a heart for serving the people. And because of what happened to me, it just gave me that extra tenacity that I need to continue to move forward. And all of the skill sets that I gained from law enforcement to being a fish in the bowl where everybody's always watching you, whether you're in uniform or not, to healthcare, understanding the ins and outs, the pros and cons, the grant writing, all of these stipulations when it comes to funding, what they require, and then to education. Again, I have a passion for learning. So there, I will learn something new every day. And because of those skill sets and experiences, I was able to transfer those skills here to shining light in darkness.
Well, I believe we can learn something from every experience, right? And take something away if we're willing to pay attention and keep an open mind from that. So I appreciate that insight. You all work in a difficult space. I mean, there's a lot of emotion, there's trauma, there's stress, and there's hope and there's light and all those things too. But ultimately, you're dealing with a really heavy subject there. How do you cope with the stress of that work? That you are dealing with. So, how could others maybe learn some of the techniques that you've gotten, that you've brought into your life to help you be able to cope with that additional stress that, you all obviously care a lot about the community you serve. So that, if you don't take care of yourself, right, you're just not going to be there for them either. So have you found some ways to kind of cope with that stress that others might be able to learn from?
Definitely. I will say for myself, I can't speak for Ed. What we do is taxing emotionally, taxing emotionally draining. So it comes in, it evokes so many different experiences and feelings within your body that you have to decompress. And for me personally, I practice mindfulness, I practice journaling, I practice decompression, disconnecting from everything. But most important for me is breathing. Breathing, taking in every second, every minute of realizing that I'm still here and I'm here for a purpose. So, in my breathing, it brings in the calmness that I need to do all of the previous things that I said that I do. Because if I did not learn how to breathe through all of this, it will still feel like I'm in water. I'm
Mm.
suffocating. I'm treading water. I'm trying my all to stay afloat. But when I learned how to breathe, that was the most exhilarating thing through all of this, especially with me coming to the realization of vicarious trauma. I thought my story was like horrific, but listening to the survivors that have stories that mine's pale in comparison to, and I had to breathe because hearing it, it was like I was drowning. I didn't know if I was coming or going. And I just had to like figure out a way that worked for me. And that was my way of dealing with the taxing.
Well, I love, there's a song in one of the verses is just breathe.
Mhm.
And that resonates with me. I, um, I've had my own forms of trauma in my life and all, but if I can just take a minute, reset, and feel the air coming in and out of my body that just reminds me that I'm okay, I'm alive, and I can get through this. I think that's great advice, great experience to share. So, Ed, how about you? Are you breathing?
Well, it depends on the day. For me, it's a couple of things. One is I lean into comedy. I lean into watching something funny, listening to something funny, because I want to be on the other side of it. I want to laugh, I want to smile. So you'll always hear me cracking jokes at times. And I even got Florida, who wasn't a joke, teller before. Now she tells a bunch of jokes. But another thing, yeah.
Florida's got jokes.
She was.
We may have to get her to tell us before we.
Yeah, she's not going to tell you a joke now. She's going to joke with you, but she's not going to tell you a joke. But another thing that I lean into is what I call the 3-2-1, and the 3-2-1 has been so beneficial for me. And basically, what it is three things that I'm grateful for today, and I do it every morning. Then it's two things that I want to accomplish today. And it could be as simple as making the bed. That's a big accomplishment for me. Florida knows. I'll just let her make her side and leave my side alone. We're good to go. And the last one is one person that I want to pray for or reach out to. I think that's important because a lot of times, just leaning in to serve others will help lighten, some of the feelings that you're going through. Yeah. I got a friend that's going through some things, and I spoke with him yesterday, and he was very, very upset. And I just listened, hold the space for him to listen, and then not really adding any advice. And at the end, he's like, I feel better. So that was my one person that I had a chance to pray for and talk to as well. So 3-2-1 is what I do every day.
3-2-1, breathe. I love it. It's a great.
Can I add one more?
Yeah, please.
For one that's in this similar field, your support system. It's also very imperative that you have the right support system. Outside,
you can't do this alone, Florida.
No, I can't. Hence is why Ed is the co-founder, co-executive director. I'm glad you asked that. Knowing your boundaries. Every time you say something, it just resonates within me. I know my boundaries. I know my limits. And so I know that starting off as the executive director of Shining Light in Darkness, I was fine. But the more clients we embarked upon and the work that we started doing, it became emotionally taxing, draining. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I had to go to the board, of course, to get their permission to have him to serve as co-executive director with me, because I want to be that light in darkness. We want Shining Light to be that light in darkness. But if I'm burned out and I'm drained and I'm exhausted and I can't do the work that's required for us to do to be that light in darkness, it's futile. And so hence Ed, what I can't do, he picks up that leverage and he runs with it.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's a great segue into the next discussion point of not speaking of not being able to do it alone, right? You all have a number of partners that you have worked with and identified, both in the nonprofit side as well as in the for-profit side. Talk about that. A lot of nonprofits tend to be an island, right? They tend to want to do it on their own. They might rely on donors to fund them or things like that, but they don't always bring in other people into the mission that are, maybe outside their comfort zone. But you seem to embrace other organizations, other partners. Why is that? What have you learned?
So that goes back to my experience from working in healthcare, working with marginalized communities, having to go into the community to connect, to do these forums, to understand everything that's required of me to do in the nonprofit sector. So with me understanding how, even though that this is something good for the community, I had 21 counties at this time that I had to work. Now, my homegrown community, that was no problem because that
Yeah.
was home. Nobody felt territorial or felt threatened because the resources were here with us. But going into those other 20 counties, um, it was so many obstacles that I had to overcome in making our program a success within those communities. And so partnership, learning the dynamics of each community that I was working with and having those key, when I say key vital partners that made my job easier, and they became project directors within those communities. We didn't have to deal with that issue of having territorial concern or feeling like we were trying to do XYZ or take over. No, we're just trying to enhance the community, just like Shining Light in Darkness. We're not coming in to taking over and all of that. We know how important collaboration is because this subject, this plague, this pandemic, is too much for one organization to do alone, and then to come in and have that mentality that, okay, I'm gonna do this. No, I'm grateful for the wisdom that I gained from working in my previous job, because I this established how vital collaboration is in order to turn our vision into reality and to serve our clients, to serve the community.
Well, and thank you. It's refreshing to hear an organization talk about that kind of relationship. And, I think the frustration I feel sometimes is just, I mean, that whole idea of being better together, right? That there's room for everybody, that, I believe in a God of abundance, right? That there's plenty out there for all of us. So, I mean, Ed's the money guy here. So Ed, I mean, isn't there enough money out there that most of that all these organizations could be fully funded in a day if they, if
there's that's a whole nother conversation. There's more. That's more than enough. It's one of the things that frustrates me, as because I was a couple of months ago, I was driving through Raleigh and got off the intersection. I looked to my right and there's a whole encampment of homeless people staying over there. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, as a society, we have more than enough. How many cars do we need? How many homes do we need? How many expensive purses and other things do we need? We are put here to serve one another. And once we figure that out and truly understand that, like you just said, we are better together. And for me, the main thing that I want to do is collaborate with everyone. Because you know what, we have gaps that we need to fill for our clients, and other entities have gaps. And even if we're doing the very similar work, guess what? That client might be more suited to work with you than us, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So we need to really lean in as organizations to work together. And you know what? There's enough pie for all of us. There's plenty of pie for all of us.
We can't be everything to everybody, right?
No.
Correct. Can I say that Florida? I feel like Ed was throwing shade at me too.
Wait a minute.
Because he know electronics and handbags and shoes. Shopping is like one of those things that help me
I was wondering
deal
about
with. You asked earlier. Shopping is one of those things that help me deal with it.
That's funny.
But mutual respect for each organization, that is key. And that is one thing that we make sure that we solidify in the collaboration that we do. We make sure that the collaboration is mutual. They're operating in what we envision and aligns with our mission and vision. So without a doubt, I love my experience from previous nonprofit because that mutual respect, it goes a long way. And a lot of people forget about that. Some of the basic things that's vital to any partnership, they forget.
Well,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
David, before you go, I want to be perfectly clear to the audience that's listening right now. I absolutely was throwing shade at her.
Okay,
So
yeah,
okay,
just, yeah,
so now we can move on.
Let's not leave any doubt there. And I will not get in the middle of that. So, well, you being that you're exposed to these to nonprofits and other partners and kind of that ecosystem of nonprofit organizations. What's one of the things that we're talking about at Angel Oak this year is the state of nonprofits, right? So I've got the shirt, I need to get you all some shirts, but the state of nonprofits, North Carolina, we believe that we're better when we have a thriving nonprofit sector, right? What's your experience right now, at least within the universe of nonprofits that you're working in? What is the state of nonprofits in our area? Is it thriving? Is it weak? Is it emerging? Is it dying? What's your take on that?
It's dynamic.
You're on mute, so I'll talk. I'm going to give the State of the Union. So I'm President Ed right now.
Okay.
And to everyone listen, the state of the nonprofits in North Carolina is strong. So I need everybody to stand up and clap their hands, whether you're Democrat or Republican. It's thriving
moment right there.
Yeah, it's thriving. There are some amazing nonprofits out there doing some amazing work. And I'm getting exposed to so many of them. I love the place at the table. I love what Band Together is doing. The Caring Place, they're about to have their masquerade ball next month. You got Step Up Durham doing some amazing work. There's just so many. There's a one called Echo, which is formerly Helios and Audacity Labs that came together. I was about to get to it. I sit on a board of Swing Pals that's working with our youth. There's just a lot of thriving
Youth
nonprofits.
and education. I have to come in because education is another one of those things that is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, so it's strong, it's thriving. I love the community leaders drinking coffee on those third Fridays. I don't get to join as much because we're on a task force for sexual assault and domestic violence.
This Friday,
Yeah, we'll be heading to a task force meeting for sexual assault and domestic violence for Durham. They kind of collide. But when you look at all the faces, when I get a chance to jump on here, from all different parts of the nonprofit world, from beginning stages to very mature stages, so it's absolutely amazing. And you said something earlier about nonprofits. Nonprofits fill the gap that our society needs, that our government doesn't take care of.
Yeah.
So, I'll put a plea. I don't care if you donate $1 a month to a nonprofit. That's $1 that they didn't have before.
That's right. Florida, what's your opinion? What's your take on the state of nonprofits?
It's dynamic and it's growing. We just need to focus on capacity building and being visible, supporting each other. It's nothing extravagant. It's just simple. And I love my nonprofit sector. Now, I do love money. I do love the for-profit. That's where Ed comes in. But as far as being able to help the community, how I desire to help the community, and seeing these other nonprofits that's doing the work as well, it's dynamic. We are continually growing, evolving. And that's one thing that I want all of our nonprofits to do here in North Carolina, is to continue to evolve. Because if we stop evolving, that means the vision and the mission of the organization, it dies. And when that dies, that means the organization dies and it ceased to desist. It's no longer operating. So I just want us to continue to evolve.
You mentioned capacity building was one of those things. Talk about that a minute. What does that mean to you, and what does that look like, from your perspective as a nonprofit? What would help you build your capacity, right? I mean, I know money's part of it, but what else does that look like?
Okay, so
You're on mute again.
Stop it, Ed. Stop it, Ed.
She's laughing. She's still on mute, but she's laughing, everybody.
Now you're good, Florida. Go ahead.
Thank you. So for me, because capacity building is just for us coming into this new area versus home. It's just sharing the best practice and fostering that collaboration. And when we do that for new entities, new nonprofit that begin to formalize, if you share those best practice and you are intentional with that collaboration, not only does it help that organization, that grassroots organization where I would consider where we're at right here, right now, but even for the long-term ones that have been here since the 1970s, if you share what you learn and give us that wisdom, that guidance, you will help us flourish for years to come. And the more we do that, the better we become together, because separately, you're gonna fall. I remember the scripture. I'm not gonna even go out biblical, but how can two stand unless they agree? And if we are focusing on the same thing, the same issue that has existed since the beginning of time, and you feel as if you can't share what you've learned to help us to reach where you're at, it's something wrong. Because no one person nor organization can tackle something as big as this by themselves. We have to work collectively.
Yep. Mic drop moment there. We got to make that happen. Well, as we wrap up here real quick, any last thoughts you'd want to make sure that we leave with other nonprofit leaders? Any piece of advice or request or plea that you would like to make of nonprofit leaders here in our state and beyond?
I'll go ahead, Florida.
So for me, what I've realized is that being in the nonprofit sector can be difficult, and it's filled with its highs and lows, ups and downs. But what I remind myself is you can't forget the reason why you started and lose yourself in and the difficult and hard times. And then even when you do feel that way, remember why you started. Remember everything that you aspired to do, what motivated you to be a part of whatever organization it is that you're a part of. And then the second thing for me is understanding that it's okay to reach out for help. If you need a mentor or someone to just an accountability partner to help you along in this journey, you do this, but most importantly, you're not alone. And in the nonprofit sector, more so than the for-profit, you feel like you're in it alone. You feel like you got to do this work all by yourself. You have to reinvent everything. And you don't. Just one, remember why you started. Two, mentorship, accountability partner. And you're not in it by yourself. You're not alone. Those are my three things.
That's great. Well, thank you. Ed, how about you?
I'll make it short and sweet. In the nonprofit sector world, we all put in a lot of hours and a lot of time, but learn how to disconnect. It's vital. Make sure that you're incorporating time to relax, refresh, and re-energize yourself. Turn the phone off. Turn the phone off. Keep the laptop closed. Especially on the weekends. If you're not open on the weekends, just make sure you're making time for yourself, your family. Because if you don't make time for yourself to disconnect, relax, and re-energize, you're not good to anybody else, because you're going to get burned out. So rest, please rest. And for the funders out there, it'll be a great idea. Maybe y'all get together and then have an executive director retreat where they can go and relax. So that's just an idea.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Florida DeVaul-Dudley, Ed Dudley, thank you so much. Shining a light in the darkness. You two are definitely doing that. We appreciate your work. And how can people learn more about your organization?
The easiest way is to go to shininglightndarkness.org. You can learn all about us. Feel free to send us an email. My personal email is ed@slidfnd.org. I love connecting with people, love chatting with people. So feel free to reach out for anything that we can serve you with. Florida.
Okay, and for me, my email address is Florida, just like the Sunshine State, the red light that I am. Even though you guys can't see me, I am extremely beautiful.
Yes.
Even though I
She's modest.
some of the most horrific stuff.
She's modest too, by the way.
There's rays of light.
No, but seriously, that was one of the things that I didn't see within myself. Was the beauty, the natural beauty that I had in Florida. I understood my name, what it meant. So Florida, FLORIDASLIDFND.org, or you can go to our website, www.slidfnd.org, or you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Reach out to us, email, website, and social media. That's how you can reach out to us. Partnership, collaborations, donations, it's open.
Well, that's great. Well, as a marketing person, I love that you're connected so well. So
you're on mute.
What's that? I'm sorry. Did you say something, Florida?
I don't know what's going on with her. Miss Sunshine.
Thank you both so much for today.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening to the podcast today, maybe watching it on YouTube, but thank you for that. It's the nonprofit State of Minds. It's on, if you're listening to this, you know where it is, but it's on Spotify and Apple and all the different platforms. So love to have you share it. You can learn more about Angel Oak Creative at angeloakcreative.com. Would love to meet people just like Ed. I love to connect and love to network. If you know other folks who would make good podcast guests, we're always open to that too. So thank you both so much for your time and for your insights. God bless you, and look forward to seeing you continue to spread the light.
God bless you too. Thank you for having us.
Take care now.
Bye.